Call this May 15th Jackson County Commission work session to order. Have a roll call.
District 1, Mr. Duffy. Present. District 2, Mr. Granville. District 3, Ms. Gilbert. District 4, Mr. Sis. Present. Chairman also present.
We do have a quorum present. We'll have our invocation by Mr. Porter and our pledge by Mr.
Lord God, as we look around, we're so thankful for those that choose to serve as an elected position, to serve the public. We're also thankful for those that choose public service as their vocation. So we're thankful for them. We pray that you be with them and guide them and direct them. And continue to bless them. Bless us as a county, bless us as a nation. Watch over us and guide us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is approval of the agenda. We have 5 items on the agenda. Are there any changes before we proceed? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion, have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. We've had no one sign up to speak this evening, so we'll move on to our discussion items. The first one is regarding the sales tax holiday resolution. Mr. Porter.
The commission's required to renew that. They changed the date from the first weekend in August to the last weekend in July. So we'll need to revise that resolution. And the way I have it drafted is, I'm sorry, it's not finalized, but we'll have it probably tomorrow. We'll have it plenty of time for the next meeting. But it simply changes the date to the end, the third weekend in July from now on. So you don't have to come back and make another change. And it also will provide that the date will be changed as directed by the legislature. So if the legislature changes the date, then our date will be automatically changed. So hopefully it'll be the last time we'll have to do that.
Any questions or comments on that? And when you have that, you can email that to anybody. So any questions or comments on that at this time? I think we're in May, so we've got time, but we should have that again next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if there's no objection, we'll place that on the agenda for next week, whatever, when is the date? 22nd. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Next item is regarding certification incentive. You have a copy of a resolution regarding this in the packets. This goes back to the bill changes that were made last year. This is something we talked about in several of the budget meetings during that time, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that process. Of course, I've just not taken the time to try to get this together, but it is something that's been needing to be looked at since that point in time. The purpose of this would be to award and try to encourage folks that receive certain types of certifications. We have several different positions. Some departments have a certification kind of process in place when certain certifications are achieved that pay increases goes along with that. What we talked about when we did the pay changes was to do something, or the pay scale adjustment was to set something up that would kind of make that countywide and apply to any department as opposed to just some of the few that it's in place for now. So you have a draft of what's been put together. This is based off of a couple of different counties that we looked at. Take a look at it, share your thoughts, and we can discuss however we want to proceed with this. I think there's a few things that need to clarify. The incentive rate, some of the requirements on how the certification is achieved. And if you look at item the three I's, how do you say that? Under E, is that correct? It says the certification must be recognized or approved by ACCA. There are a few other organizations that I wanted to put in there. I was trying to find out from some of the different department heads and elected officials who provide some of these certifications. So I wanted to clarify that. But it would not, according to this, it would not be limited to that. There is room to say, well, this is, an advanced certification. There's a new certification process actually coming out for maintenance employees that I'm very interested in having our folks participate in, but I don't think it's offered through one of these organizations. So there would be opportunities still for things like that. But I do want to clarify some of the more prominent certifications that are approved through these organizations. So that's still to be determined as far as those different items. So questions or comments on this?
Have we researched how many employees that this would affect yet, or, I mean, do we have a list of what certifications yet that?
Well, the initial look that I was shooting for was to get a list of certifications. This broadens it a little bit, and I think it's probably a little bit better to leave it a little more open so that we don't have to approve every certification that comes through. But as far as who it would affect, there are some folks that would fall under this that have already received that increase, and there are some folks that have not yet. So I've not had an opportunity to look at that yet. Because of a couple things, there's still a couple questions still to be asked about it, but this was just prepared over this last week. I worked with Mr. Porter to try to get this prepared last week.
Before we vote on it, I'd really like to see a list there and more or less a dollar amount of what it potentially gonna cost. I mean, given our financial situation, I'd really like to know before we voted, what kind of money we'd have to obligate.
Who's going to actually be eligible?
Bob, can you get that together?
I could probably pull, well, a lot of it's gonna be based on how you guys determine it, I guess. I mean, we don't really say have one right now. But, so I guess this is the early stages. I understand this is just being determined at this time, so.
If your job requires it, then you're not eligible, but like, you got a lot of people that, go back and get Class A CDLs that were not required an A CDL. So would we include those as well?
I think that would be the question we want to include.
Yeah.
You probably want to discuss that as well as the training cost that would accompany that too. You're gonna have some.
Right, we do spend the dollars on training.
Right, so you'll have the cost of the training courses too.
When you get to that point, can you do two categories, 1 3%, 1 5%? When we get to that?
Could we do that based on the certification or based on the type of training that it requires?
You can, it's gonna be difficult to administer that way.
Well, I think you misunderstood me. I
Oh.
mean, dollar amount,
Okay.
What is
3% versus
Gotcha.
5%, to just see what the cost difference is, because I know we talked about 5% at one point.
Right, yeah, that was the original based on
Yeah.
the sample scale. Yes, we can put those numbers together. Based on having some of that information together, we can put this on the next work session in an attempt to try to get something done in June. I know this has been sitting out there for a while, but have some type of decision in June. But would that be appropriate? We don't have a meeting on the 29th, so it would be, we have a holiday on the 5th of June.
I'm like Jason, I'm gonna see what is gonna be eligible for this and what dollars it's gonna amount to.
So I think that's what we're going to have to decide, is what the,
That would, if we put this on the work session on the 6th, I think that should give me time to get together the two different rates that you're talking about and determine, we do need to determine the different organizations, but based on who has certifications now. Now, again, that's still not gonna say, once we do this, there may be some folks that pursue certifications because of that. But I think we can get an idea on what that would look like. So would that be appropriate then? We put this on the work session for the 6th to try to have some final numbers together and a final draft.
Yeah, make a decision, we need a list of what certification, we need to ask each department head what they recommend in their departments as far as certification, and we need to decide really our certifications that we're gonna have under the umbrella before we, try to figure a dollar amount.
Mr. Hodges has got some idea, because you've talked to the department heads.
Right.
Some.
They've been getting me some of the different ones that they've,
What you could do if you wanted to would be to have a list attach the ones that you know that you want to, and then have this additional inclusive provision that says, and any other degrees that are approved by the department head and the chairman. That way you give you a little leeway if somebody came up with something that wasn't on the list. So you wouldn't have to come back and amend it.
Right.
And the key things on this, it does note professional degree, correct? Or certification. And it notes directly related to the responsibilities and the duties of position, and that requires to pass a test or examination and continuing education. So there are some pretty good strict rules on it.
Yeah. I think it should be. I mean, if you're gonna do it.
So, any other questions in it this time? I will be here through with this, so I should have time to hopefully see it.
Come up next, when you say?
The 5th will be the next meeting. Once I have
6th
some
or
of the,
5th?
6th, thank you.
So,
Next, when I get some of this information together, I will send it out so that everybody can take a look at that before. Any other questions at this time? Next item's regarding nutrition manager position recommendation. Ms. Thune, you have,
There should be a letter in your packet.
you're looking at the wrong thing. Okay, we have a recommendation letter from the Council on Aging. Any questions on this? Is regarding nutrition manager position, which was vacated sometime back, I guess, right?
Months.
And this was interviewed for last week.
Yes.
Any questions or comments on this? All right, if there's no objection, then we'll place this on the agenda next week to move forward, the 22nd. Okay, next item is the transportation, the 2018 grant application. Ms. Thurman?
Aldott has moved that application up to May this year, and they have a template that we go by, and these are the things that we need signed by the commission. We need the letter of designation and the local match commitment, and then a resolution stating that this will all fall in place.
Questions or comments on this? You have 2 letters and a resolution in your packets. Again, this is our annual obligations, I guess, for this,
Yes.
correct? Any questions or comments on these? Okay, if there's no objection, then we'll place this on the meeting for next week as well. What'd you say the deadline was for submission? Okay, so we'll be right on it.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? We have 2 items for Public Works, HMT 2 position recommendation. Have a letter regarding that in your packets. Any questions on that? Mr. Campbell, do you have anything to say on that?
No, sir. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any about that letter dated May 15, 2017.
If this approved, this will have a HMT 1 position to fill based on that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And still another HMT 2 that will at some point have to be.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments on this? Okay, if there's no objection to that, we'll place that next week as well. And the 29 resurfacing project selection, we have list here for that. Questionable, Mr. Campbell, you want to share with that?
I do want to make one clarification. I was asked last week by Mr. Venable if these were the lowest scoring roads, and so there is one other road that's in that category that is a major collector. These are all major collectors, so That's County Road 32. We have some question marks about it actually being a major collector because the ADT is 170 cars per day when you compare it to the larger numbers that you have here. So it didn't make the list for that reason, but I wanted to clarify that score-wise, it is in this same group.
What did you say the rating?
It's an 82 also. Because of the low ADT, it wasn't a consideration.
Okay. Questions or comments on this? When did we want to or when was this needed to be submitted as far as for this next week?
If we could vote next week, that'd be great. And in the meantime, if you need some pictures or additional information or anything we can provide, we'll be happy to do that.
Questions or comments?
You had mentioned possibly doing a micro seal on 16. Can we use those federal dollars for that as well, or is it for?
If it's if there's a specification that's approved within ALDOT specs, we can use that. And we can use federal dollars, and then there's no implications with our plans or the way we plan to do it. So it still has to go through the same network of folks and approvals. But if it's an approved process and there's specifications, it's fair game.
In your opinion, how many years of life or use would a micro seal add to
You're probably gonna get 7 to 8 years.
additional?
Yeah. So, I mean, theoretically, this upcoming cycle, we would resurface both the first two choices because there's no other option. They're gone. They need to be resurfaced. 16 is to that point to where it's revealing a lot of cracks, too many cracks. It's past the point of crack sealing and fixing it that way. It needs a surface treatment like Mr. Venable's referring to, a micro surfacing or a scrub seal and then a surface, something to that degree. We were able to do over 5 miles, close to 6 miles in 2000 when that was paved. And you can see in today's dollars, if we're talking resurfacing, that only buys us a little over 2 miles. So you can see how that expense has grown and what it does to us.
What would it cost to micro seal? 20%, 25% of this total number? Or
It's probably going to be more than that. I'd have to get some current dollar amounts per square yard on that, and if you'd like to look at that.
These prices here, who are they buying material from?
This is all contract work. It's federal aid project work, so it would be an ALDOT let project. It would go through their letting system with a full set of plans, and then it would go through the bid process through ALDOT letting. So we don't know who the contractor would be. It would just be, low bid. It'd be awarded to low bid contractors to perform the work.
It's not cheap either.
No, sir.
Well, has Reed, have they got set up yet?
They are progressing. To my knowledge, there's no asphalt plant set up.
They're just gonna try to get going sometime May or June.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know if there's anything going or not.
Any other questions or comments? Need to have a choice next week. Do we have any type of thoughts or have it down? Or are you saying if we, is it micro seals that you said, Mr. Venable? If we do that, we can only choose one project, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have enough money for one.
So if we micro seal, is that something you'd want to look at even though that has a lower?
Well, it's something we might be able to afford to do ourselves. It depends on what the dollars come in at.
I can look at that option for that project and extend that dollar figure out to do it. Are you talking about the entire project, 16? Or are you talking about these limits that I have
Well,
here?
yeah, whatever it would take to get us
Yeah.
7, 8 years down the road,
Gotcha.
And we would pursue that, doing that ourselves though,
Yeah.
right? So that may reduce the cost to some extent.
Well, we're not able to perform that operation.
We'd
It's
have
a-
to contract, but we wouldn't have to.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
So would we want to look, are we narrowing our choices down? We've got it.
Yeah, I've always been a firm believer in worst first, an 82 score on 59, but then you look at the traffic on it, it's 625 a day versus 1,000 a day on 42, but,
And the cost is slightly less,
Yeah.
42. Any other
We
thoughts?
get those figures anyway, but like you started, you said another 7, 8 years. I mean, at least you have something to kind of compare it with.
And it would probably raise the score on that particular.
Oh, absolutely.
stretch of road.
Oh, it would absolutely raise the score, yeah. And, you know, to do this thing, you may have read in the paper what we've put out there, but if we had a little more money, you know, and a little more options, then you take roads, you take your backlogger roads, like the first two that are in this selection. You concentrate on every year working on your worst first, but you also set aside some dollars to keep those mediocre roads from falling into that bad category. So it's a lot less expensive to keep okay roads good or good roads good
More
than it is
preventative
to
maintenance, yeah.
rebuild roads when we're like the first two options. So, you know, you get strapped down in these situations to where you barely have enough money to keep up with the ones that are falling apart, and that's basically where we are. And these are our major collectors, you know, so our highest traffic roadways is what these dollars go for.
Any other questions?
That's the high price dollars for a short distance, I think.
Yes, sir.
Can you get us some images on 59 and 42?
Yes, sir.
If you have an opportunity to go out beforehand, it would be helpful, but if not, then we can look at those as well. All right, we'll place, if there's no objection, we'll place this on the agenda for next week again. If you have an opportunity to get with Mr. Campbell to ask any further questions so that we can have a recommendation on how to proceed. We'll place that on the 22nd. That concludes the items on the agenda. Have our reports, Mr. Manning,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Mud Creek, County Road 213, Mud Creek Bridge is open and in service. It opened last week. There's a few punch list items remaining, but all that should be able to be taken care of under traffic.
Thanks, sir. Anything else?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Porter?
Mr.
Mr. Manning? Mr. Reynolds?
No.
Mr. Sis?
No, sir.
Mr. Griffin? Okay, that concludes everything for our agenda. I would like to, on the park project, we have been renting out some cabins there. There's still some things happening to close out that project. It's not totally closed out yet. The restaurant's coming along and the building out there is coming along. If you haven't been through there since the end of last week or even today, I encourage you to ride through there and just see how it's coming along. It's looking great out there, and all the projects that are going on, I think there's a lot of buzz going on around it, so pleased with it. This weekend is the Catfish Festival, so one, if you can make that, I think the commission's gonna have a booth set up there, and be handing out some different things there. But that'll be another thing to draw some attention to what's going on out there at the park. So again, if you haven't taken a look, things are coming along pretty well. A little bit slower than anticipated, but trying to get everything coordinated and worked out there. And we'll try to have a ribbon cutting on those cabins as well as our Mud Creek Bridge next week, I think is what we're gonna shoot for, providing it doesn't threaten to rain. Maybe we'll do it even in the rain. I'm tired. Okay, so that concludes everything. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make it motion.
Motion, have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say